was reading Mike Mentzer's book there, Heavy Duty. And he's talking about how like strength and hypertrophy, which I don't think he used hypertrophy, but the term wasn't used as much back then. But they go hand in hand. Muscle building and hypertrophy and strength go hand in hand. That's not entirely true. I would say there's like kind of a ratio. I mean, nobody's really talked about this, but like I see the ratio is kind of like, you know what I mean? Like it's not 1-to-1. Like in other words, if I were a bodybuilder and I wanted to put on, say, I don't know, I weigh 210 now, but let's say I wanted to be a 260-pound bodybuilder, so I want to put on 50 pounds more muscle, right? Well, I don't have to be as strong as, say, if I decided to be a power lifter, right? To get to that 260 pounds. I would say I probably need about 70% of the strength, maybe 60 to 70% of the strength that I would need to be like a competitive power lifter. Now, as a competitive power lifter, I don't necessarily need 260-pound lean body of muscle. In fact, I probably would not be very conducive to being a strong man. To being a strong man, you might have a few pounds of fat at the very least on your body. Probably quite a few. So you might still have that 260 pounds, but you're probably gonna have an extra 40 pounds of fat. So it's not like lean muscle. You know what I'm saying? It's not all lean muscle. You have because you can't exercise that much and get strength. That's why. You can only do so much. As a strong man, you can only do a few sets and then come back. As a bodybuilder, you can do a whole bunch of sets and your muscles are going to grow, but they're not going to get that strong. They get about 60 to 70% of that strong man. See what I'm saying? But Mike Mentzer thought it was 1-to-1. Like, oh no, it's all strength and it's like you got to lift heavy. That's not entirely true. Yes, high intensity is true, but that's going to failure rather than say reps in reserve. Which I think is bullshit. Anyway, I've never been. I mean, I don't know. I'm not saying it's bullshit, but I've always thought I've the whole thing when they've talked about reps. I've been lifting weights since I don't know the 80s. And nobody was talking about reps in reserve in the 80s. I mean, there was ideas about like high volume, low volume HIIT training, whatever, and I've explored different things. I've done high volume, I've done moderate volume, I've tried high intensity training. I've done all kinds of variations. And, push-pull legs, alternate days, or odd, even days, 6 to 8 days a week, training, 1 day a week training. Yeah, I've done it all. And well, I say it makes me an expert. It's not. I'm not an expert on anything. I'm not a doctor. I'm not an expert on physiology. But, from my experience, it's all like, it's like life. It's all in moderation. A lot of things can work. HIIT training can work great. It can work great for almost anybody. But so can high volume training, in moderation, not with heavy weights. You see what I'm saying? Like, I'm doing high volume training right now, but with lighter weights. And why? Because elbow, knees, ouch, yeah, I can't lift heavy. I wish I could, but I can't. I'm in my 50s and my elbows like, can't do it. Knees are like, not. Squat, not going to happen. Maybe body weight squat, that's about it. So, I have to do, I'm not doing super high volume training either, but, So, but getting back to it, I mean, you know what I'm saying? There's kind of like there's a synergy there of, strength and hypertrophy, but it's certainly not like 1-to-1. Like, you have to be as strong as you possibly could be to put on as much muscle as, you possibly can. That's ridiculous and not true. And that, Mike Mentzer was wrong. But everything else is pretty much right. Nutrition and HIIT training works and all that. But the idea of strength and, muscle building being exact, no. Somebody could be somebody's bodybuilders are relatively weak compared to strongmen. You can see strongmen that weigh 150 pounds. They're stronger than a guy who weighs 250 pounds. Like Bradley Martin, who's my 260. I bet there's guys who weigh 160 pounds that are freaking, way stronger than he is. You don't realize that, but that's true. That's why you could probably get knocked out by 160 boxer. But anyway, this is a story for a different day. Yeah, that's all I can say. The only thing that Mentzer was not to say that Mentzer was wrong about everything. He wasn't. He was a sharp guy, and he knew a lot about bodybuilding. A lot of people did. Other people didn't. But he was wrong about the strength synergy with muscle building or hypertrophy. It's not anywhere near the same. I don't know why. We thought that, but I guess they didn't know that much back then. I mean, when I was 35 years ago, I was working out. I was reading books, from experts on stretching from Sweden, because it's all I could find. It's true. I found this book about stretching from some Swedish doctor. I did that for stretching. I did it pretty religiously too. It was like it worked actually. That, and I read Arnold's bio, and I followed some of the tips that he did left in the bio. And between the stretching book and Arnold's bio, and I think some other book I had on that, I did pretty well. I mean, within a few months, I had getting a pretty decent physique already. But I'm saying things were different back then. There wasn't a lot of information. Everybody, you're lucky now. There's all this information. It's like Mike Mentzer was working on the dock, and so he did pretty good.